just mentioned a really important word
Yeah.
when it comes to authenticity, the judgment.
Judgment.
How we judge ourselves. So either side of authentic or inauthentic. Inauthentic will have so much judgment in it. It will judge other people. It will be judging ourselves. It'll be like what you're describing, judging how we feel, judging how we're thinking. And all of that brings us into that space where it's harder to be true to ourselves. It may sound like the craziest paradox that it's hard to let go of pain, or it's hard to let go of what's bothering us or what's stressing us. And yet it has this seemingly irresistible kind of grip on us that will pull us back in purely because of familiarity. So this is exactly what we're talking about. How difficult it is at times to let ourselves feel that calm and feel that stillness. And it's there underneath everything. It's there underneath everything. So even if there's loads of turmoil or loads of emotions that we're still, working our way through and healing, we can find that place of stillness in the midst of that. Within all that, it's there. All we do is just make that space a little bit bigger, that it becomes more our usual experience. But it's definitely there. So it feels like to be authentic. For me, it started with being brutally honest with myself. Really, really honest about exactly what I was feeling. And giving myself the option to really decide, did I want to stay in that or not? Now, this was a battle that lasted probably the best part of a year. Of each time I would go into emotions. And there was times where it felt productive to go into that. And I would start healing those emotions. And then there seemed to be this crucial point where it was no longer healing or therapeutic to be in that. And it became shit-stirring. It became recycling. Because I just couldn't quite let go of the feeling. I just couldn't quite move through it. So it was a little bit like getting stuck in it. And that place at times could be quite self-righteous. Because we're on a healing journey, so that feels really good. And when somebody points out something about that, and it may be a judgment, it may be something kind of negative, but feeling that reaction, feeling that defensiveness around it. So easy to get lost in the midst of emotions like that. So easy to lose that sense of who we really are. So being really, really honest. Really honest about how I'm feeling and why am I feeling that. How did it come to be that I'm feeling that? That requires a kind of a curiosity. Enough curiosity that we're able to explore it and feel it and just give that a little bit of space. Once we're letting ourselves get to know that, then we can start giving ourselves the choice of what to do with it. We can begin recognizing the difference between, no, this is a feeling that I'm generating. This is a feeling I'm generating by the way that I'm thinking or the way that I'm acting. Or, oh, this is a feeling that's coming up for me because of something that happened in my past. This is connected to a trauma or connected to something else. When we're authentic, we start to get a little bit of clarity on that. The way forward is quite similar. It's feel the feeling enough to clear it from our system, and then don't repeat whatever the thought or action was that created that in the first place. So in other words, take the lesson of it. What we can sometimes do, especially if it's something that we feel pretty bad about, is like what you were saying, we'll hold on to a kind of a guilt. And we'll convince ourselves that that guilt is healthy guilt, a productive guilt. And it isn't necessarily. If we keep a little root of it, yes. If we keep it as a stick that we beat ourselves with, or that blocks us from the good stuff in life, then it's not such good guilt. When we establish that really nice soul connection, those teachings are already there, or those lessons are already there. We don't need to keep guilt on that strong human level in order to keep the lesson of it. It's like we file and save it into the soul memory, keep the lesson. Being authentic is a little bit like not taking anything for granted at any point. I've done it myself, and I see it time and time again, of when we heal something, and we feel quite content that we've healed that, and then something will happen that triggers a similar emotion, we get frustrated. I thought I healed that. This is coming up again, this is ridiculous. To be authentic means to accept that we might have layers of emotion connected with something. We might have stages and waves of healing that can only happen when they're ready. We can't force it, rush it, or do anything else with it until it's ready. So the most authentic we can be in that is doing all the things that help us to be ready. Doing all the things that help us just to have that space. Calmness is that space. Letting us have a little space of stillness, that's the space. So, where we get caught is we know that when we create a space of calmness and stillness, something will move into that to be healed. And so now we have an agenda for not going into the calm and the stillness. Because while we stay outside of that, we can convince ourselves that actually everything's fine. I'm sure I'm grand. But the reality is we're stopping moving into that space because we don't want to find out what else might need attention from us, what else might need healing. So a lot happens in that space when we start to be authentic. Because we start to learn how to tolerate those different feelings or maybe memories or emotions. We learn to tolerate them enough that they can be healed, that we can transform them. Now this is simple stuff in one way, but it's not so simple in the side that's the feeling side of it. When it's big emotion, it's hard going. There's no doubt about that.